Good day to you. Welcome to this edition, third edition of RiSE, the podcast. It's the weekly podcast that intends to bring positive change to the world. It's also the podcast that defends the small business owner to instill creativity, new ideas, problem solving, independent critical thinking, finding a new path and our way with passion and, of course, some blood, sweat, and tears too. Each week, we feature guests who are making a difference for the good, whether it's how we do business, whether it's leading at work, making communities stronger, eradicating poverty, touting abundance, or maybe new ways to heal and be healthy, or maybe it's about empowering youth to be all they can be, or learning from our elders. This show is a journey of ideas and solutions and new thinking that will have you and have us create a vision for where and who we want to be moving forward. And I'm really thrilled to have a friend, a colleague, a wonderful guest today. Her name is Rachael Thompson. She's an energy healer, an entrepreneur, a dog walker, a speaker, a counselor, Reiki practitioner, and she's also a YouTuber as well, and has a really good YouTube channel. And this is the joy of recording from your home. You've got the helicopter up above, watching our every move, Rachael. So welcome to RiSE, the podcast. So Rachael, if we haven't noticed, it's not business as usual these days. Uncertainty, fear, doubt, trust are all being questioned and tested right now. It's like somebody's shaking things up. So I hear, entrepreneurs are a little tired, tasks take longer, or they're screen fatigued, like, doing the Zoom calls that people are doing in terms of getting messages and learning and meetings across. I want to look at what we can do and must do to be our best in this climate of massive change. And I want to begin today with managing fears. So let's look at it. How do we shift our fears? Because there is a lot of fear, about everything that's happening on the planet these days. So how can we begin to shift and manage our fears? And let's look at where our fears sort of come from and what they really are. Are they teachers? Or are they telling us something that we need to sort of act on? So let's look at fears. What's your take on that? Like the fear that's so pervasive in society these days.
Yeah, pervasive is the perfect word. And it's also, fear is very sticky. So once you start down the fear path, whether you are going down a rabbit hole online, whether it's just within your own mind, something sparks fear, it's like an energy that grabs you and wants to hold you in. And it's very easy to go down a spiral. And it's an evolutionary defense mechanism. We needed that for a lot of our evolution, but now we are at a point as we evolve as humans and in society that fear is now, almost always a detriment to us, whether it's a detriment to our health, our well-being, our life, our actions, our habits. It's just a ripple effect. And so I think the important thing to remember about fear is 99% of it is our perception. And when we are triggered into fear, it is absolutely an opportunity for us every single time. So if you think about it, if something in your outside world creates fear within you, and you were triggered into that fear, then you have that opportunity at that moment to ask yourself, okay, well, what is creating the fear within me? And is there something within my physical world right now that I can do about it, like the fight or flight, right? Like an actual threat that I am able to do something about. And if you are, then that's a call to action. But if you're not, and you realize you just end up spiraling and you feel out of control, then that's a healing opportunity for you every single time to understand within you what is being triggered. So it's kind of taking that attention out of everything else, saying what is being triggered within me, what trauma is being triggered. Maybe it is the feeling of being out of control. Maybe I'm feeling like a victim. Maybe there's things within me that are being brought up, and you can bring awareness to that. And within that process of kind of cutting the fear before it spirals, then you're able not only to stop the spiraling of the fear, but to, heal that root cause of what is really being triggered within you.
Yeah, and I know I've gone down some rabbit holes online over the past year. Even just being on social media, people will send me stories or articles about this is going to happen or this is happening, and it's like, oh, I don't want to see this, and then what I find can happen is I shift into doubt and negative doom and gloom thinking. And it's hard to and you're right, it is an energy. It's not real because it's a potential, yes, but it's not in the here and now. And it is an energy that takes hold, and it really can kind of it's got so many effects, as well. So let's look at like how can we shift that doubt and get out of that state of that negative thought or that doom and gloom thinking after seeing or hearing something that might have triggered us.
So I think the number one important piece to remember is that fear, it will always attract more fear. So when you are triggered into that fear state, there is a part of you that almost seeks out more. Now, your brain is going to tell you, I'm trying to make myself feel better, so I need to go deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole, or I need to have cyclical thoughts because that makes my ego feel like I'm in some kind of control. So we have to notice, whenever we notice that we have been triggered into a fear state or a doubt state, we need to bring awareness to it, and then we need to stop what we're doing that initially created that fear state. Right. So we need to break it, even though we're going to want to go deeper into it. We're going to, like, anytime you have one of those icky, low vibrational emotions, fear, doubt, anger, jealousy, like any of those, there is this pull. They have this magnetic pull to them where you do things that just get you deeper and deeper and deeper into the hole until you just feel really, really icky. And so you can stop that as soon as you just have awareness, and you are in control, right? Your fear is not in control. That part of you that wants to go down the rabbit hole, that's not in control. You're in control. And so you can stop what created the fear. And now you're going to have this fear in your body, and you're going to have the fear in your mind. So my recommendation would be, or just, not recommendation, I'm not recommending anything, but maybe helpful advice would be to go into your body and just take a few deep breaths. You need to get the fear response out of your body. We need to bring our nervous system back to some type of homeostasis, because it's a feedback loop. Our body is tense, it's fearful, it's feeding our mind. Our mind then goes and feeds our body, and then we get all tight and restricted. But if you can bring awareness to what created the fear and just separate yourself from it and go into your body, it doesn't take long, just a few short or quick breathing cycles, making sure that you're breathing deep. You can get up and just like kind of shake it out. Just shaking your body can help bring you back into balance. It's getting that energy out of you. I mean, if you see a dog, anytime that they are overly excited or maybe fearful, what do they do after? They shake it off, and then they go about their day. I mean, that's a physiological way to bring your body back into balance.
Yeah. Or dance. Like, I like dancing to, don't laugh, Katrina and the Waves, Walking on Sunshine. It's a very
Yes.
uplifting song, right?
Yeah,
So,
like and it's just one song, right? You would just put on one song. This doesn't take a ton of time. You'd put on one song, or maybe not even the whole song, maybe just 30 seconds, a minute of it. And that acts as a reset to your mind and to your body. And then you are able to come from a place of more clarity. Um, so yeah, it's just a very easy time for us to get sucked into things that when you look at it from a clear, calm perspective, we know that it's not helping ourselves, it's not helping the world, and it's not changing
yeah,
things.
it actually gets worse. But there, you mentioned our health is affected. So the cortisol levels goes up. There's the stress response in the body. It hampers our creativity, our flow, our you know, our yeah, you know, just how we move through life. It affects that, but it has really, you know, adverse reactions too in the body from a health point of view. Do you want to share what some of those might be? By, you know, if we continue to sort of stay in this sort of state of fear, doubt, doom and gloom thinking, what are some of the health risks that might occur, and what do you see in, you know, the clients you work with when you're doing Reiki or, you know, healing work or counseling work with them?
Yeah, so I'm not a doctor, so I don't really want to speak too much to, I mean, I think it's kind of, people know a lot, like, you know, high blood pressure, and, you know, it can lead to chronic illnesses, the stress. But from an energetic standpoint, what happens is you almost trap this lower vibrational energy within your system. And like you said, it can block flow, it can block your creativity, it can block your peace, your peace of mind. If you have these, the Sanskrit word for it is vritti, like a whirlpool. So if you think of energy that's within our bodies as little whirlpools, what does a whirlpool do? Well, it sucks you in, right? So if you're constantly feeding fear, then you can view that you have this whirlpool of fear that is within you. And the more that you feed it, the stronger it gets within you energetically. And so that's why, if you were used to feeding, we all have our sticking points. So for me personally, it was always doubt. So for my doubt to be triggered, it was very easy and very quick. Fear's the same way. If you feed it, if you were constantly feeding fear, I constantly fed doubt. I constantly was doubting myself. So that whirlpool was so strong. So it wouldn't take much to trigger it. And once it's triggered, you have all of the cyclical energy and thoughts and reactions, physiological reactions. It's just like, boom, you're in that whirlpool. But just like any other energy, if you do not feed it, then it starts to slow down. And eventually it becomes so soft that it no longer has that hold or power over you anymore. And so, you know, whenever I would do like a Reiki session on somebody, the energy channeling, that and Reiki is just channeling energy. It's kind of like, if you would think of a river and you would just like flow the water right through, you know, that can take out a lot of the debris. And so, you know, I would do a Reiki session on somebody, and I would tell them, listen, like we energetically, we helped this for now. But if you go back to the same behaviors, you're just going to feed it again, right? Like, so it has to be that conscious decision not to feed these energy whirlpools, that energy anymore. And just a recognition that if you have a strongly reinforced habit, it's going to take a little bit for that strength of that habit to subside, but eventually it will. It always, always, always does.
Yeah, and then the fears turn into beliefs too, right? You start to believe. So, you know, a lot of experts are suggesting, you know, don't watch the news, you know, and I know a lot of people still watch it like incessantly, and it's like, don't watch it, because it's going to trigger the fear, the doubt, the, you know, those sort of, you know, the doom and gloom thinking. It's going to trigger that, and so don't do that. You know, have a news fast, or you know, if you follow somebody on social media that you feel is negative and it's not feeling right in your body, let it go. Don't watch it anymore, and shift your behaviors and your patterns. How did you but by being in that state of fear so much, you start to believe that this is it. This is the only reality that's possible. Do you see that in those that you work with or interact with in your world, in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I am from the belief system that we do create our own reality through our beliefs and through our perceptions and through our expectations. So if you are constantly feeding fear, then your reality is only going to reflect that back to you. And this is not something that I read about in a book and I'm regurgitating back to you. It's not a philosophy. This is something that I've lived, and it's something that I've very intentionally adopted myself. And I've seen time and time and time and time and time again that we really do create what we expect and what we perceive our reality to be. And because there have been times in my life where I have gotten sucked into fear, and I'm telling you, those times it's like everything will reflect that. Like my interactions with people reflect that. Like things that I experience feel so out of control to me. Like and thankfully, since I've gotten kind of stuck in those periods of time for where it's been a short period, but it's been enough of a period of time for me to see I created that. Like I created the world to react to me the way that I expected them to. And then when I would switch my energy, then I would absolutely get a different reaction.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Yeah.
We both follow a guy named Phil Good on YouTube, and a video he just posted on YouTube talked about let go of your beliefs, and also Kyle Cease, another gentleman that we follow, similar message: let go of the beliefs. So, how have you seen that play out when you've let go of a belief? First of all, how did you do that? Second of all, how did it play out? What was the sort of the result you got, or the improvement or the shift you made to let go of the beliefs? What was the result of that?
Just the complete transformation, honestly. It's changing my beliefs. And again, this is like, I don't want to sound like I'm coming from this like out there super woo-woo place, although I am very woo-woo. But this is coming 100% from experience. I will not speak on anything that I've not personally experienced.
Yes.
And so from my experience, when I deliberately changed my beliefs, then my life changed in terms of my business, the success, if you want to call it success, whatever word you want to call it, but my business, finances, relationships, opportunities, people, how they reacted to me just in a day-to-day, like at the store. I am a big proponent of testing this out yourself. Prove it to yourself. I am setting intentions. Oh, they're doing construction next door. I'm sorry if you hear the background noise.
We've done work like this before. It was trucks moving and
I don't know why. Every time, David. See, that's a belief. I need to get rid of that belief. It is always peaceful and quiet every single time.
Yes, it is. All, as Louise Hay would say, all is well.
All is well. So I'm a big proponent of setting intentions that are small intentions so you can prove to yourself that you do create your reality. I do it all the time. Like I'll do it before I go to the store. I do it daily for small little things. Like I will manifest a free slice of pizza, and I keep intending it until it comes true. And there's never been an intention that I've set that hasn't manifested in one form or the other. And so, yeah, whenever I changed my belief system, and I did it very deliberately, and I did it very consciously. I think it's Abraham Hicks where I first heard this. I'm not 100% sure, but she said, a belief is just a habitual way of thinking. And so for me, I adopted Neville Goddard's concept of a mental diet, where I did not let the old story play out. I changed it. Every time I heard within my mind that old story playing out, whatever it pertained to, I had an affirmation to counteract it. And it took work, but I eventually changed my beliefs on, I mean, a lot of things. And it's absolutely been reflected in my reality.
Yeah. So how else then can we build that muscle of trust? And by the way, for those watching, we're with Rachael Thompson. This is RiSE, the podcast. And Rachel's joining us from her home office in Charlotte, North Carolina, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what else can we do to build this muscle of trust and begin to really walk in faith rather than walk in fear? What else can we do? So for you, it's a diet. I've heard take a diet, challenge your thinking, affirmations. Is there anything else that we can be? Shift your physiology. Tony Robbins even said, change your psychology by changing your physiology as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else that we could do?
Yeah. So I would suggest feeding yourself. I mean, when you think of a mental diet, it's not just affirmations, it's what I feed myself to. So choose wisely what you're feeding yourself and ask yourself, does this resonate with me? Because even if it's self-help or spiritual or whatever you want to call it, doesn't mean it's going to resonate, and that's okay. And if it doesn't resonate, then there's nothing wrong with you. Choose something that does and feed yourself that on a continuous basis. Now, in terms of trust, that's where surrender comes in. And for me personally, and this is not for anybody else, and I'm not suggesting this, but for me, a belief that there is this greater force, a consciousness, an energy of love, something that so I believe that we are all creators and we are all part of this greater force, whatever you would want to call it, the creator, divine, God, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
We are all that. But that part of us, so it's in our being and we are that, and we're coming to the realization of our truest selves. But that force has a higher perspective than what our human eyes are able to see. And so there have been many times where I have been going over something within my mind. We have to realize that our mind, when we're trying to figure out a problem, our mind is only going to pull from what it knows. It's going to pull from its old stories and old beliefs and what has happened in the past. But when we're moving into a new state of being, our mind is not going to be able to figure it out. So that is when we have to surrender. And there have been so many times where I have given it up to this higher, if it's a higher part of me, if it's a higher being, whatever you want to think about it, I've given it up to something higher and said, give me a new perspective on this. Please, I need an answer to this. And there has never, and I knew it would come. That's the thing. I just knew it would come. And there's never been one time ever that has not come. Now you need to be aware of it and you have to be looking out for it and you have to be open to it coming in different ways. So sometimes it's almost like an instant shift where I get that intuition or that knowing. And other times it might take a week or 2 weeks and then it comes. And then I realize, oh my gosh, this is the question that I asked 2 weeks ago. Here it is. Thank you. So it's a trust and just a surrender.
Yeah, and you answered my next question, which was, you know, we are going through a shakeup on the planet, and it is forcing change, you know, in every aspect: how we work, how we do family, how we do life, how we do health, you know, and it's really, the question was about, you know, the power of letting go and being okay with letting go. And then letting God or letting the universe in to help out. And I think through this, a great number of us have forgotten that, you know, that we don't have to do this alone. There is help out there if you just ask. And there's, from what I'm hearing and reading, there's a ton of divine intervention happening on the planet right now. But we have to access that. and we forget that, right? And then, again, when you're wrapped up in the negative stories or the news or whatever it is you're watching or reading or doing, you forget that. You think, oh, well, this is the only way. And no, there's like, if you think of even Napoleon Hill and his work, he developed the mastermind concept, and you and I are a member of a mastermind group. And the mastermind idea is that, 5 minds coming in together as a team is far more expansive with ideas and connections and possibilities than your little mind. And so, when you do it alone, so that's the success of the mastermind concept, is that you now have multitude of ideas and ways to do things. So, the power of letting go is really important, but it's scary for people to let go and to trust. We're not wired that way to trust. Do you see that maybe there's a shift about to happen in that we just have to kind of let go and trust? Do you see that happening more in the next year or two?
For some people, and for others, it's going to be holding even tighter to a false sense of control.
Yeah.
So, it's the ego. The ego was built, again, it's that program like the fear. It was built for evolutionary purposes, and it was built to keep us safe. But just like the fear on our expansion as human beings, that ego needs to evolve, because we've evolved past it serving us. It does not serve us. There are parts of it that still can, but overall it keeps us in the old stories and in the sense of separation and trying to grasp on for control, which doesn't allow us to expand or evolve. It tries to keep us where we were.
Yeah, or keeps us small. And then what we're seeing, I think, today is that our ego is playing out on a global scale, because it's keeping us stuck and small. And we forget we are divine beings. The late Dr. Stephen Covey, in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and if you ever saw him speak, he said, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And we forget that we're spiritual beings. And if you believe in the higher power, God, Jesus, whatever, but your next door neighbor Mo, who hasn't returned the lawnmower yet that I lent him, but that's another thing. If you believe in that higher power, and that we're part of that, then we have to let go of that limited thinking and let go of the doubt, the fear, and the ego in order to just sort of be all we can be, right? What's your take, experiences? Have you seen that play out with maybe some of the clients you serve? What have you witnessed in your experience with ego, especially ego?
Yeah.
Which means edge got out, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It's what is trying to keep us small. I've seen several people who are just starting to really kind of step into their purpose.
Yes.
Their soul is calling them to do.
Yes.
And it feels right to their heart, and they're in the flow, and they do something amazing. But then the ego comes and says, oh, that was not good enough. Oh, everybody's going to hate it. Oh, who do you think you are? Like, it's the soul expresses, and then the ego comes to try and keep us in that box that we've been in. And so I believe that in life, we have 1,000 deaths and 1,000 rebirths while we're still alive and incarnated in these human bodies. And we have to when we see these parts of us come up, and we know are only holding us back, that voice that is telling you you're not enough is only going to hold you back. The fear only going to hold you back. The doubt only going to hold you back. They tell you they're protecting you. We can see them. They are defense mechanisms that for a period of your life you needed. But when you reach a point where they become so uncomfortable, and you know that they're holding you back, you know that they're keeping you in a space mentally, physically, that you don't want to be in, that's whenever we have to choose to release them. And there's so many ways to do that, right? Like I'll write things down on a piece of paper, I'll burn it. Water, so taking baths or going in the ocean and just saying, cleanse me of these fears, this old ego. I'll just lie on my yoga mat and say, I surrender, help me, and allow that help in. And there's a lot of ways to go through this process. And sometimes it happens very quickly. Like you recognize that you just let something go. And sometimes it is a process where you have to continue to let go and let go and let go until that part of you does finally fade away.
Yeah. And the more of us that do this, like, we'll transform the world. Really, seriously. Yeah. I've had my ego, or I have a name for it. I've named him. And with all due respect to The Simpsons, my little negative voice is called Krusty the Clown, right?
That's good.
You know Krusty, right? Yeah, my favorite part of the show, right? So it's got that voice, right? And it sits on the couch, and it's in an undershirt with a bad hairdo and a comb over at that. And it's like, who do you think you are starting a podcast? It's not good enough, right? We talked about that before. Well, I'm going to move into it, and it'll get better and better and better. So, and then I remember my ego when I did and we were talking about the history of this new podcast and soon to be radio show and everything. And we were talking before we went to record here today about my first ever show. And my first ever show, I bought airtime on a radio station, and I was selling advertising to cover the cost, right? And maybe make some money. And I remember I made 125 calls to get 5 advertisers. So I got rejected 120 times. I think around the 40th time, my little ego voice came in, and it said, "See, I told you radio wasn't for you." Right. And that was a past message I got from somebody else, actually a family member. And they're just kind of concerned looking out for me. And then so I said to the voice, "Thank you so much for the advice, but I'm going to go make my next call." Right.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for sharing. Thanks for your, thanks, Krusty. I'm not good enough. I'm not capable. This leads me to my next question for you, Rachel. And you teach and talk about being in the 5D reality and not in this 3D reality. Mm-hmm. What's the distinction, first of all, between the two?
So the distinction between the two is in your 3D reality, you're in the reality of matter. You're in the reality of competition. You're in the reality where it's survival of the fittest. It's not this cooperation, it's not oneness, and it's having to work really hard just in life. The 5D, and if you look back through spiritual text, yoga masters have talked about the yugas and us entering this new yuga, or it's been referred to as the age of Aquarius. And what this yuga or age is, it's the age of energy. And so we are moving from this dense competition-based hard work, grind energy to one where we realize we are creators and we have the power and we're all one. And so we are in competition with nobody. The only thing that we're in competition with is our old limiting stories and beliefs. And so that's the only thing that we need to worry about overcoming, because we are here for a reason. And if we step into that and we express that with the mental beliefs that will support our success and whatever that means for us, then we find it, right? And whenever we wish well on another person, we're all one. And so we can create healing and beauty for other people. And as we do that, we get that back to us ourselves. So, anytime I try, whenever I, see somebody who is struggling, I just wrap them in light in my mind. And I know that I did something. I don't know what, but I know that that was much better than feeding them the story or sending them the energy of judgment or pity or any of that. it's knowing that we're all one, and our thoughts and our intentions, our energy and our thoughts and our intentions create, then we can create a life not only for ourselves, but one that's beautiful for other people as well, knowing that as we do that, that energy comes back to us. So it's very much, we're moving into an age of energy, one of flow, one of understanding that we are all part of the same energy field. And what we're experiencing right now is the 3D just at a climax of everything that the 3D represents.
Yeah. And it's funny if people want to go back to the way it is. It's like, no, you don't. Because I'd rather be in a state of flow, of love, of support, of joy, of ease, of, oh, I've got enough. I'd rather be in that state rather than this craziness of the, the past of the 3D.
And we have to recognize, so these yugas last for thousands of years, and we're in the beginning of it. We're the first beings going through this. So we have a ton of old conditioning that we are shedding right now.
Yeah.
And so that is where we're at. We are seeing things as, things aren't feeling right. A lot of these things just don't feel right to us anymore. And there's a reason for that. We're meant to expand past it. So if you are here right now and you are listening to a podcast like this and you're trying to better your life or better the world in any way, then you are one of the first people that is creating this whole new age that's going to bring humanity forward in its evolution, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, so we have work to do. Mike Dooley from The Secret and Tat, these daily messages you can get in your email, which I do. Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer, they all talk about how thoughts are things and they become real. So we really need to, Rachel, to become present to our thoughts and visioning, don't we?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. That's why I, even though a mental diet, when I first started, it was hard. It was hard. I'm not trying to speak that into existence for anybody else who tries to go on it, but it was not easy. But it was so worth it because I saw thoughts were things.
That's Neville Goddard, who is actually a bit of a protege of Napoleon Hill, too, right? Like it's from that generation.
Yeah, it's from that generation. He's in the same generation as Napoleon Hill. I'd say their teachings are similar, but Neville's, there's definitely a distinction between the two, because it's so interesting that whenever all these teachers first came about, Yogananda, Napoleon Hill, Neville Goddard, Florence Scovel Shinn, like all of these first teachers came, they were all born around the turn of the century. This is whenever we started to go into this new age. So that's when the first group of people really started to talk about this stuff. And now we can go back and listen to them, and it makes so much sense what they're saying.
Right. And it was a change too. There's a big shift from, into the industrial age, the 1900s, the early
Absolutely.
1900s, cars weren't around. It was like horse or, you hoofed it, you walked it. So, yeah. So what I got today from you is, first of all, start reading good things like Stephen Covey, another thing he talked about in his book and in his talks. And I had the actually pleasure of interviewing him when I did my show a number of years ago. And I was on cloud nine when I got that interview. It was like, oh my God. And it took 2 years to get him. And that's why it was like, I was persistent. I stayed in it. I almost gave up. I almost got mad that I couldn't get him, but he came through, and but what he says is start your day, end your day with something positive. Like don't watch the news, as we alluded to before. He would read scriptures, and read something uplifting, read a book, listen to uplifting music, and do this mental diet. As we wrap up, what else would go into this mental diet that Neville Goddard talks about? Do you want to just share a couple of other ideas?
Yeah, so I'll just really briefly explain it to me. And again, this has worked for me. I'm not recommending that everybody does this, but he just talks about like when you feed yourself, the diet that you feed yourself is what expresses in your reality. So if you think about having a conversation with somebody, how do you mentally perceive that conversation going? And if it's not how you'd really want it to go, then shift it in your mind. He gives an example in his teachings of his wife, who her supervisor was just nasty to her, and she would come home and complain about it. And she would say, and he asked her, he's like, well, what do you think about him? And she admitted that constantly she was arguing with him in her head. So he told her, whenever you are, she walked 5 blocks to go to work every day. So he said, when you're walking to work, I want you to rehearse how you would want those conversations to go. And according to his story, within 24 hours, that shifted their dynamic completely. And it remained that way because she shifted how she expected that conversation to go.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So it's the mental conversations you have with others, how you expect others to react to you, just noticing those stories. If you, like if I would post something, what's that mental story that goes on of like how people are going to react to it? Oh, did I freeze?
Yeah.
Okay. If I would post something, or if I would do something or create something, what's that mental story that goes on? Are people going to like this? Is there doubts in your mind? It's intentionally stopping anything that you wouldn't want to manifest, and then saying, okay, this is how I'm going to recreate this within my thoughts or intentions. And like the last thing that I would do is time I would think about money, I would have a couple affirmations that I would say that whenever that old story came up, I'd say, no, like I always have enough money to afford anything I'd want. I always have enough money to afford anything I would need. Money is flowing to me. And it's just like that quick turnaround. It's recognizing that old story within your mind when it comes up, and then stating an affirmation or creating a new story. And whenever you do enough, then you shift your belief system.
Yeah, this is great. I really hope everybody got some nuggets. And I really recommend you start reading, shut off the TV, negative people. And I've talked about this for years in my business coaching. Some of the worst people in your life are your family in terms of negative thinking, because they've got their views and they just want to protect you. They don't want to. You sure you want to do start a business? It takes a while. You might not make money, so they're sharing their beliefs and fears and projecting them onto you. So you really need to sort of learn to get quiet, meditate, visualize, the power of visualization. Soak up really good things like the book you recommended by Neville Goddard, or go back and reread The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, or read up on Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer, things like that you can do to calm yourself down, meditate, go into nature. I'm hearing, draw, paint, play with pets. You've got a beautiful dog that probably brings you joy, and
it does.
Right? Yeah. And where is he? Not there today.
Oh, he's there. I took him for a long walk before this, so he would behave himself. So anytime that I'm on a Zoom call, he likes to make his presence known. So Mommy took him on a long walk, and he's taken his morning nap. But I do want to speak to the opinions of others just really quick. Whenever I am in conversations that do not serve me and they create doubt or fear, I'll stop listening to the person and I will mentally affirm what I want in my head. And it's no disrespect to them. It's just I'm not going to let these stories be reinforced within my consciousness.
Right. And to close, I read online that we are in such an extreme time of manifesting. Like it's immediate. It used to take like, oh, I really want that car. And you'd visualize it, and you would do a vision board. I have a vision board with cars, and it's like, it takes so long. But now what I'm hearing is it's a quickening approach. There's a quickening happening, and what you think or you want to manifest comes instantly. So you better choose good thoughts.
I'm telling you, like, again, this is not something that like a philosophy that I read or anything. Like, I have tried so many manifesting techniques throughout the years. Recently, I would say the past 6 months or so, I've experienced that time and time again, David. Like, I'm telling you, instant manifestations. I mean, I'm speaking 100% from experience. Here, it's like it's kind of insane. So we're at, since the energy is picking up, then, and we ourselves are raising in our vibration and our consciousness, then there does need, I feel, to be a discipline and to be very intentional about what you want to create, because we're creating it.
Yeah, and we are creators, and creators is what, you know, you'd call God, the creator, or the mastermind, or the universe, or all that is as all these great thinkers have shared over the years. So you know, we really need to be mindful of what we're, you know, what our diet is, and we you know, not only with food, but also with what we're taking into our minds, and then retrain the brain, and really focus on positive, and you know, and let go of the negative thoughts, because they're not serving you. You know, my little Krusty the Clown telling me that radio wasn't for me could have stopped me back in the day. But if I listened to that, I got to interview like Jack Canfield, you know, Dr. Covey, another guy I really liked, Chet Holmes, who was a really good marketer. I got to interview like teachers from The Secret back then. So imagine if you listen to that negative voice you have and just like stop, because you're small, you think you're small, but like we're bigger than that. We're better than that. We're yeah.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I want to make the distinction that this is not being a Pollyanna. This is not saying like, think positively, deny. I mean, this is intentional, and then maybe times.
You got to repeat that. Yeah, you froze there for a second.
Okay.
So you said not being a Pollyanna, and.
Okay. Yeah, we're not a Pollyanna. This is intentionally creating. You know, so there's a difference. There's a difference between denial and not facing things, and seeing it and having awareness of it, and allowing yourself to heal and purge and do what you need to do. But then also at the same time, taking back your power. So I don't want this in any way to seem like airy fairy, you know, just the world is a wonderful place. Like, the world will be a wonderful place if we create it to be that way.
Yeah.
We have the power.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really well said. And I think we should end it there. With us was Rachael Thompson from Charlotte, North Carolina, in her home office. I want to thank you for being part of RiSE, the podcast, Rachael. And for those watching, listening, our goal is to inspire individuals like you to rise up. That's the R in RiSE, inspire or make an impact. That's the I. Be socially aware. So the S is socially aware. And the E is to continue the entrepreneur spirit to make the world a better place, because I think we as entrepreneurs can make a big difference. And next week, I don't know who the guest is. I haven't booked the guest, but we'll have somebody good to watch. So tune in next week as well. Until then, I'm your host, David Cohen, and rise up this week. Have a beautiful week, everybody, and stay well. And Rachael, thank you so much for this.
Thank you, David.
What a joy.